All right, so John, you're over at Concentric. So why don't you tell us what is Concentric?
Yeah, so really we're in a couple of different spaces,
Right.
primarily around power. So it powers forklifts in a facility. Um, Power that is backup power, like a telecommunications or a data center type of a
Hmm.
space.
Yeah.
So we sell and service those things, and then we do some maintenance on equipment, automated
Yeah.
equipment, those kind of things, focused on the warehousing space.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw your booth yesterday, which is not far from us over here.
That's right.
And you guys are making a little bit of a splash, I would say, over there with what you got going on. So I mean, you've been focused on power, right? But you come up with this solution, the Hive. So tell
That's
us a
right.
little bit about that. What is that?
So, as a company, we've always been kind of innovative. So we're a collection of, let's just say, acquisitions, and then
Okay.
we've grown organically. But within that, you get an entrepreneurial spirit, a restless spirit. It's really focused on the customer.
Mm.
So that drives you to think differently about, hey, how can I go solve a customer's problem? Because that's really at the core of Concentric, and that's one of the reasons for the name is that we put the customer and what they're trying to solve at the center of what we do.
Yeah.
We see customers that are struggling from a power perspective, from getting maximum productivity utilization out of their facility, and it brought us through a culmination of challenges, thinking through challenging ways to solve a problem, and that's what spawned the Hive.
Mm.
And it's an exciting product. We think it's cutting edge. It's scalable.
Yeah.
Um, it will solve a lot of problems for customers transitioning from internal combustion to electric. It'll also solve problems for customers that are running multi-shift, and they're looking for the most efficient way to solve productivity problems around power.
Mm.
And really, the other thing is, it's really cool, is we all know that we're running into an energy crisis, right?
Yeah.
So we recently joined forces with Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, which is major energy production, leading energy production for the world, and they've made us think differently about power and energy in the way that we think about what that change is going to be over the coming years. Because this
Mm.
move to electrification is going to put a strain on our grid like we haven't seen. And
Yeah.
if you look at any of the models, it's going to be a real significant challenge for us all. And we all know the move to electrify vehicles on the road, and then when you think about the Hive and what it solves in the warehouse, if you could take that and put it on the road, it'd be absolutely perfect, because
Mm.
none of us buy electric vehicles,
Yeah.
or not many of us buys electric vehicles because we think about range, right?
Yeah.
But if you knew that you could pull in to a fueling station, you get a full tank of fuel in 2 minutes and never get out of your car, you do it all day long.
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of what the Hive does for you.
Yeah.
And when you look at the economics, you take the economics of a traditional power system and then the Hive, it's actually cheaper to run,
Mm.
which doesn't make any sense, but it is when you consider all the factors. So,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so for people maybe that haven't seen the Hive yet, we'll describe it a little bit. I mean, you have basically a kind of a parking tunnel for the
yeah,
forklift. Forklift comes in, and then there's a robotic arm which takes the battery out of the forklift and then puts it into like almost like a cubby system,
Yeah.
right? Where it's going to get charged, can get serviced from there as well. And then that robotic arm is going to take a charged battery that's in working condition and good, and then replace it and put it into that forklift, and doing it in fairly quickly time. I mean, I did it yesterday morning. I pressed the button and everything. I stood on the safety pad and saw it all happen. And I mean, it happens very quickly. So it's much faster than having to stop to charge. It's much faster than doing a manual battery swap, which is nasty. We don't want to do that, right?
That's
We
right.
want to avoid that. So tell us a little bit about kind of I guess maybe the reception to people that are seeing that here at the show and people that have already implemented it in their operation.
Well, the customers that have implemented it, it's been fantastic,
Yeah.
right? From the onset until today, so many customers have seen increases in productivity and change their productivity metrics. But you described it well. It is, many people thought, well, how do you do that? The battery's so heavy. Well, the power in a lithium is not necessarily all of the weight, right? So you take some of the weight out and you can move that battery with the robotic arm. And then we put counterweight in the truck that we call a cradle. It kind of cradles the battery, but it also provides counterweight to the forklift. And then what that does is it allows you to use the same battery for multiple different types of forklifts. So it gives you flexibility, the customer flexibility in the type of forklift that you use. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's more to be said, but it allows you to charge the batteries in off-peak. It allows you to charge, keep from putting a load on the infrastructure in the warehouse. There's some applications where we have an auxiliary battery that helps charge the system or even power it with solar so it doesn't pull on the grid. Again, electrification and the energy crunch is coming, so we're trying to be ahead of that with the Hive.
Yeah, and I think that makes so much sense, and it's such a smart design to be able to make it easier for the operator and just the operation, the infrastructure, facility overall to be able to manage it better, have it as a safer option, definitely, and just to be able from the energy side. I mean, tell us a little bit too, because Ryan was telling me a little bit yesterday about how it makes a difference in kind of the energy consumption. It's a little more efficient on that side because, as you mentioned, you're able to kind of just have a standard size battery, correct?
Yeah. There's a lot to be said there.
Well, let's hear it.
Yeah. One, lithium is just a lot more efficient, a period from utilization inside of a forklift. So that's one, and we won't get into the specifics, but again, the programmability of the charger, when it charges, and the efficiency of the charger makes an impact. And I didn't mention also, we get visibility from a data perspective, back at our offices to see how those units are running, and the unit will, in some ways, self-learn to improve the efficiency of how it operates and supports the customer's location. And then there's also oversight from analysts to try to help, better manage the customer's facility, and really they're the Hive system, right? But you're right. You do utilize the same size battery for all the forklifts, so it gives you the ability to have flexibility. So if, let's say for some reason that a battery fails, you have another one sitting right next to it, and it doesn't take a truck down. So that one battery a truck, that's something we sold and serviced for a long period of time. But that one battery a truck we found is unsustainable in an operation. Customers sometimes have to buy extra equipment, and with this, they don't have to because they have the flexibility of another battery that'll it'll work in a sit down, it'll work in a stand up, and they get that flexibility. So.
Yeah, I think that flexibility is such a key, especially as we see more high volume operations and multiple shift type of operations where we want to make sure that we don't have any downtime, right? Downtime is, we say downtime is the devil, right? We stick with the D there.
That's right.
We don't want to see that in our operation at all. And I think it's great that you're able to do that. I'm curious on the aspect too, because if we look at what would be a traditional manual battery swapping process, right? We'd have a battery room and things like that, but that takes up significant space within a facility potentially, right? So tell us about on the side of being able to free up more space. How does the more kind of, I guess, compact design of it, because it's here at the show, it's not taking up very much space at the booth, I would say. So how is that kind of a win too for operations?
Yeah, the unit takes up about, I'll call it 25 by 25, 25 feet by 25 feet space. It'll support about 50-ish forklifts, depending on utilization. Could be 65 and lighter utilization, 45 and a heavy utilization. But roughly, let's just call it 50.
Yeah.
So 25 by 25, I think, supports with a 200 amp panel, it's efficient because it's stacking the batteries and putting them in a very dense hive type of an environment. So you look at it, okay, I've got all this energy to run my operation, So again, it's been fantastic. You know, the next iteration would be to say, okay, we can utilize that stored energy and an energy storage and supplemental way for the warehouse. And that's the next phase for us, because again, you're going to have this energy crisis coming at us. So that kind of positions us to support customers, to give them, you know, full power at their facility, even when there's a brownout or some kind of catastrophe, right? So that gives us that flexibility. But that's like the iteration after, you know, that's probably where we're going next. But and we're playing with that today, but we just see that is a coming need, and we got to be prepared. So.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think there's just so many improvements that can be done by putting the Hive in place, not only from that safety aspect, efficiency perspective, having better overall control too of your power and the energy that you're utilizing, and from that space savings too as well. I think it's a big win. So it's really interesting what you guys have put together there, and the Hive is super cool. So if you are at Modex here this week, make sure that you go by and check it out. It's very cool to see, and I think you could even jump on there and press the button too. So John, I want to thank you so much for coming by the booth here. If people want to learn more about Concentric, what's the best way to do that?
Just our website, concentricusa.com.
Right.
I will make one more point, is that if you think about the philosophy of our company, which was create a zero downtime experience for the customer, the Hive hits that bullseye every time.
Yes.
So that's precisely why it was built. So zero interruption, and we got technicians to support it. So we're excited.
All right. Thank you for that, John. And have a good rest of the week.
You too.